You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are ladies and things that makes it official. Welcome to the show. We certainly appreciate it. We're just going up on Thanksgiving here. You guys should all have the invite out to the Chris Voss Show home so that you can come by for some good Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving food. If you haven't got it yet, just keep holding your breath and see if it comes through. But so guys, go to Goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss, one of the TikTok and all those crazy places on the internet. And please don't put a comment that 10 years from now when you're watching this video and it's February and you're like, it's not Thanksgiving. Anyway, guys, it is in 2024. So we have somebody on a 12-year-old video the other day. They made a funny comment, like people are still using the iPhone 5 or something. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to be talking about his business insights and what he can teach you and you can learn from some of his experience in life. Richard Cruz joins us on the show. He is an advisor and consultant to C-suite executives. He helps organizations improve performance, develop self-efficacy among workers, foster organizational commitment through employee engagement, and lead change. He also provides a highly effective training, education, and coaching to work groups to increase competencies for talent development. We definitely need more competency in this world. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks, Chris. This is a treat.
It's wonderful to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs to get to know you better?
Yeah. So the main place you can go is to our website at www. Do we even say www anymore?
Some people do.
I guess so.
My mom does. For your AOL account.
Sure, exactly. So harmoniousworkplaces.com. That's the main place where you'll find myself and my co-hosts. Yeah.
No matter how you put it in, usually gets there. Google search. So
that's right. You could do that too.
Yeah. So give us a 30,000 overview in your words. What you do?
Yeah. So what I do is organizational development and change leadership. That's been the career path for me for the last few years. So what I do is go into organizations, I make sure of what they're doing. I document what they're doing, and I'm trying to lead with data. I graduated from Purdue last year with my master's in science degree in industrial organizational psychology. It's stuff I've been doing for the last 20 something years. It just put a nice bow on everything, and so leading with data, taking a look at, what is actually happening within an organization, and then assessing what's that gap. How do we get from where we're at now to where we need to be in the style of Jim Collins' Good to Great? How do we, get to that stage?
Harmonious workplaces. You guys transform workplaces into places people want to work. Why do you have to be like that, man?
Man, a personal story, right? I made that my mission because I've been to places, I've been with different organizations, I've seen that there are people who think that work sucks, and it doesn't have to suck. The work can be, as fulfilling, and we spend more of our time at work than we do with our families in most places.
And if you've seen most of our families, you know why. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. People learned that over COVID. They're like, oh, is this what you're like 24/7? I'm out.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's that. But no, I mean, we definitely need more harmony in the workplace and, making a place people want to work. I've talked about this ad nauseum on the show over 16 years. People are like, he's going to do it again. But, it took me a long time, most of my life, to find something that I truly love doing every day. And I would show up whether you pay me or not. I don't know whether an Amazon worker is going to show up, whether you pay him or not. But for me, it makes a difference. And I know that people that are passionate about what they do, they love what they do, they'll do it out of love, and
whether they get paid or not.
Whether they get paid or not. I mean, Tom Brady used to take pay cuts with the Patriots so that they could hire a team around him. and he understood the importance, but he loved the game and all that stuff. I assume he loved the game.
The whole career on it, I would imagine so.
You just see him now. By the way, fucking football sucks. I hate it every moment. You won the most. That would just destroy everybody.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little about some of your upbringing. What were your influences? Did you grow up with the entrepreneurial influence from your parents?
Not at all.
And how'd you get down this road to working this way?
Yeah, so I grew up on the south side of Chicago, over by. So I went to St. Rita Grammar School, St. Rita High School. So brought up Catholic. My dad was a Chicago police officer, working in District 11, and then as a detective in Area 4. And my mother was, she stayed at home and raised us. And it was, I wanted to be an artist, Chris. I did not want to, business never crossed my mind one bit during all of that. From fourth grade on, I wanted to draw. That's what I wanted to do. But I never took an art class in high school. I always stayed in the honors classes just to get the grades to be able to go to college. And so then I went to U Chicago, and nobody ever goes to U Chicago to study art, at least not in the 90s. No. But that's what I did. So you were drawn to art, but now you're in business. How do you make that leap? I had one of my friends when I was very young that had influence on me. He told me that he would tell me about how his liberal arts degree actually helped him in business and as a stockbroker. He was a power stockbroker there during the 80s. Sure. And I'm giving away my age. But he said, I didn't, and it also helped him in dealing with people, like being a CEO of the company and absolutely interacting with people and being a leader. And he's like, I never really thought that liberal arts would pan out like it did. But, I took ballet in college, and look where I am today. Did you really?
No.
Did you really? Come on, man.
No one wants to see an elephant wear tap dance shoes. I think there's some physics that are possible that I can stand on my toe. When did you start this company?
So we started this company last year, but I've been doing consulting work since 2005 because I went back to school for an MBA. I found out after college really, really quickly that as with an art degree, I needed to figure out how to do business because I was not going to get anywhere. So I started to do marketing. I worked in operations, retail operations for a little bit for a music company, and then I went to go to a printer. And I said, I want to work for your company. And they said, how do you send something to print? And I will never forget this. The lady said, you have no idea what you're talking about. Get out of my office, go back to school and learn how the printing business works because you just don't know anything. So I learned graphic design. Yeah, it was a rough lesson, but I remember it, and it got me to go back to Columbia. I learned how to do graphic design, and that got my foot in the door to do marketing. And that's what I did since 2001 up until the present. But now I'm marketing us. But it was 2019 that I decided to go back to. I decided, is marketing really where I need to be? Because I really feel like I can use those skills, but I can use them to help make the workplace better. And that's when I went back to school to Purdue. And last year, one of my colleagues at Purdue, Cheryl Volpe, she's a former producer of a kind of cult show that had been on for about 13 seasons. Those who know what that might be, but she,
Fight Club.
It's a comedy. Yes, it's a comedy. It's a comedy thing, and you can go and take a look at Cheryl Volpe and see where I'm coming from. But anyway, she and
Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club.
But she and I said while we were in class, we got to do something together. We just gelled. And so after that, we both graduated, we said, let's start doing consulting work. So we started to do that. We got our first client out of the gate, and have been steadily building this. We brought on another consultant, Ben Kleinman, when we started to do the Harmonious Workplaces podcast. So we've been doing that. We just filmed our 40th episode. So we're nowhere near you, Chris. Nowhere near you.
Congratulations, though.
Thanks.
You know, most people don't make it past 20, 25.
Hey,
Like
all right.
Like you've what is the stats that we have from hosting? 80% of podcasts fail within the first 7 episodes. Out of that 20% that survive, another 80% will die by episode 25, especially if they don't have their own website established. I don't know. I guess a lot of people on like Anchor's Spotify system, I guess people just throw up podcasts for fun. But most die by 2025. And fun fact, I mean, most podcasters that have 100 plus episodes are in the top 1%. So that tells you that 99% of the business is dead zombies and only 1% of the business is active. It's kind of like real estate. Only like a few percentage of real estate agents are like the agents making money. The rest are living on welfare. I think it's the same in the SAG acting sort of field. Anyway, so you give us the plug on what's the title of the podcast again?
Oh, it's the Harmonious Workplaces podcast, and you'll find it streaming on all, it comes from Podbean, so it goes on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, all that. Yeah.
All that good stuff. And so what do you guys usually talk about there so people know what they're looking for?
Right. Yeah. So because Ben comes from that's Ben Kleinman. He's a Northwestern MBA, and he comes from a change management background. With our IO psychology backgrounds and his, we really, everything comes down to the one thing that's constant, which is change. Mm-hmm. So we talk about that every week, bringing in some different element of it. A lot of it boils down to communication, but that's it in a nutshell.
Definitely. So you talk about culture in your work there, and culture is a real big part of making an environment to where people want to come. Fortunately, I was a good enough pre-study to learn about this back in the 1860s when I started working, and my birthday's coming up. I'm feeling it, and so tell us about why culture is important. It sounds like that's what a lot of you focus on when you go into companies and take a look at what they're doing.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with Edgar Schein's model of culture, but if you imagine an iceberg, right, and below the iceberg you've got your underlying assumptions of what is it that the company's all about? What are we here for? Why do we exist, right? Mm-hmm. From that we get our espoused values. So what are those things that we value, and what are those things that drive us? And then at the top, what people see are the artifacts, right? We see the outward behaviors, the signs, the symbols, the communication, how we communicate those assumptions and those espoused values. If we have a rotting set of assumptions or a set of values that's out of line, what's going to happen to those artifacts? We're going to see these outward behaviors of disengagement. We're going to see people who are going to, at worst, sabotage, at best, become zombies within the organization, right? So we want to avoid that. So culture is a huge component. It's also, when you make a change, the idea behind the change is to make it the new culture, right? We want to enculturate those changes, and so we have to. That's one of the things that we strive to do and help organizations to understand is, we've got to look at culture. The proverbial fish stinks from the head down, right? So we got to start at the top.
Fish rots from the head. There you go.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how I see that in so many organizations. Like there's been some run-ins we've had with different events and restaurants we've done around town where we have a big group of singles that we bring, and a couple of the places, they clearly make their money doing events in groups, which we want to sidestep that because they want like big deposits. And normally we come on a Sunday and we try and find capacity that's empty, right? So we try to go to places where we know that there's plenty of room to fill, their dining room, and have our event and still, be able to not have to put up, thousands of dollars in fees. We've kind of figured out that it's kind of a gambit, a game, if you will, among restaurants.
Yeah.
The group, though, as soon as they hear you have a group, it's like cha-ching. And, we've even been told that, the reason you guys cause a lot of stress in the system. How do we cause different stress in the system than if everybody just shows up?
My man, we just brought you a whole bunch of business. Like what?
And if you understand capacity and inventory, especially from an empty sitting thing from a restaurant. So we've had two restaurants that finally said, we're just not going to, after one or two times, we're just not going to work with you. And we're like, why not? And we're like, your per plate isn't expensive enough, different things like this. And initially I thought maybe it was the manager. And so I always want to know if the fish rots from the head. So I'm like, let me talk to whoever runs your company. And I would go up the chain, and sure enough, at the very top, it was the CEO of the two companies that the fish rotted from the head, and they didn't give a fuck about customer service. It was extraordinary to me. And you would explain it to them, and you would think I knew how to run a restaurant. I've owned dozens of companies. I've never run a restaurant. Right,
sure.
Just no. Well, if you have empty capacity, you got to fill it, and if not, it's just burning money.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. But it's like inventory on the shelf, right? It's costing you money. It's sitting there. Move it.
But I think for two of these companies, it was a write-off. But it was funny to find that, because I'm like, is this manager an asshole? Am I just dealing with a manager who's an asshole, or does this go up the food chain? And it was kind of interesting how you would always go up the food chain. Fish rots from the head.
There's also there's selection. So they found somebody who had maybe similar values, shitty values, so to speak, and said, "Hey, I like the way this guy thinks. Let's do that." And that's that's gonna just think about how that's gonna stymie somebody's business. They're just gonna be in that same space. Whereas, one of the things that we like to talk about is providing a place where, new ideas are introduced and where there's, some degree of psychological safety. That's interesting. You brought that up to them, right? Mm-hmm. So that you have zero psychological safety because you're coming from the outside. Yeah.
I have no psychology left either. Oh, there. My brain's broke after all these years. But culture is so important. It was Peter's book, The Fifth. I can't remember what it is. The Fifth Discipline. And it was his book that really influenced me to think about culture. I don't know Tom Peters as well, but a lot of the books that I read, Thriving on Chaos, I think was a big one. And it taught me how important culture is, and how important it is when you start a company to inlay that culture and curate it, I guess, if you will, when the company starts. And then, of course, a lot of people, when they come in, they have to do an assessment of, is this the culture that I want if you're a new CEO, et cetera, et cetera. Now, notice you guys have a culture scorecard, workplace culture scorecard. That's great. There's a website that people can check out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So we came up with the culture scorecard. I don't call it an assessment because, frankly, I'm trying to be as ethical as possible in all of this, right? In order to be called a true, valid, and reliable assessment, we do need to do some more testing on it, but it has been vetted by several other industrial organizational psychology professionals and academics. But what it basically does is it allows you to measure across several different, a 5-point scale, right? To measure across several different aspects of your business. Where am I at? Do I need to consider making some changes to how my culture is, or am I in a good place? And we certainly have people fill that out where they feel like they're in a good place. But oftentimes we have some places that maybe they have some new technology that they're not getting full adoption of, or maybe they have people they just can't retain. So you see that quite often where you have people who are there for a short amount of time, and that's one of those top concerns in 2024. Now going into 2025, I want some good people, and I got to be able to keep them, right? So that scorecard is kind of telling on that, but it's only a gloss overview. One of the things that we do is go into the organizations and really get deeper into what's really going on. Do we have some disharmony or dissonance between where you need to be and where you want to be and where you're at right now, and how do we level that off to have everybody sing and play together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, nicely, right?
That's right.
Sing and play nicely together.
Play nicely.
Play nicely. Can't we all just get along? But culture is so important, and a lot of people leave. You talk about this on your website. A lot of people leave over bad leadership and bad culture. Share some of your thoughts on that, why employees are leaving and why that can be costly.
Yeah, so there's a concept called perceived organizational support, POS. It meant something completely different with my first car, man.
With marketing, point of sale.
Yeah, point of sale. Mine was a piece of car, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, that.
We should have that first car.
My Nissan Sentra.
Those are healthy cars.
Yeah.
Don't shame and drive away the Nissan Sentra.
Yeah, when you have a Nissan Sentra with that. Mine had a wooden bumper for about 2 weeks.
Mine had a giant hole in the driver's seat.
That's awesome.
Driver's thing. You could see the road passing underneath, and you had to put the steel plate down. It was pretty fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
First car is the greatest.
Right, absolutely.
When you're poor, when your parents aren't rich.
That's right. Yep. $600 bought me my first car.
Yeah.
But but POS in the sense of perceived organizational support, that is critical to holding on to people, right? When they don't feel that they're valued, when they don't feel that they're contributing, or when they are contributing but they're not being acknowledged, and when they don't have the proper training, the proper onboarding, when their ideas are not accepted and there's no feedback loop, they have options. Human capital theory posits that the value that an organization derives comes from the people that work there, and that capital is always borrowed. I mean, you have assets, right? You have IP, you have actual cash, but your human capital is always borrowed. When those people are gone, you don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
And so you lose value immediately when you have that happen. When you have a bad culture and that happens en masse, what's the value of your company at that point?
Yeah. And when you have a bad culture, it really interferes with the human spirit, the human drive, the human integrity to want to do better, put in the hours. People just kind of phone it in.
Right.
I mean, we even noticed that, like a lot of our videos get watched on Friday. And we're just like during the day, and we're just like, we know what everyone's up to.
I'm on Facebook. Here we go.
I've always noticed Tuesday is the best day, like everyone to get people to answer an email. Like Monday, evidently they're doing their work when they show up for work, and then like Tuesday they're pretty much done, I guess. They're just reading junk emails.
Truth.
But culture is so important, and leadership is so important. People, if someone's a bad leader, they're toxic, they're just really poor at emotional intelligence and connecting with people, it can affect everything. And you want people to be inspired, you want them to feel motivated, especially this. Talk to us about how Gen Z is changing the game. I know millennials had a big hand in that. Gen Z is changing the game when it comes to needing good culture, needing good leadership, wanting to matter. And I imagine Gen Alpha is going to be the same way.
I would imagine you're right. That's the generation that hasn't yet hit the workforce, but they're there, man. I mean, they're primed, and we've never had in our history such influence because of the internet, right? Because of access to apps and phones, and now everybody's messaging each other all the time, right? So I've got 3 kids. They're they're all Gen Z, and they absolutely hate when I try relating to them. but they want and need the sense of belonging. They want and need the sense of community, right? When they don't get that, and they certainly want they've got to, they are a generation of creators, right? Even the thinkers, they are always creating something, and they want to feel like they have some input. When they don't have that, when there's some degree of, and it doesn't take a lot, reticence to accept feedback or to make some change for their to satisfy them. The disengagement happens, and they can go and start finding something else. And they're all very tech savvy, and I can't say all, but most pretty tech savvy and primed for the workforce.
Yeah. And they definitely want they want stuff that matters. That they want to do work that matters. Environment, social causes. I think it's just not even that. I think they want to do something that matters to them. That feels like they're making a difference, maybe bigger than themselves in the world. I guess different than us Gen Xers, where we're just like, we just want to make greedy profit money. No, I'm just kidding. I
don't know, man. I was going to say, I think Gen X now, at where we're at, we're looking for purpose too. I think you're right. Like earlier on, I just wanted a damn job. I just wanted to work, and I just wanted to make some cash and then start a family and all that stuff. But now I'm looking for purpose. Like and we're at this stage of life, the Gen Xers and the Boomer generation, right? Where there's this model, Eric Erickson, who says that we're like at this stage of our life where it's generativity versus stagnation, right? So we want to pass on the knowledge that we've gained now, to the younger generation to help them. I think that brought me into wanting to be, and now I am an adjunct professor at Trinity Christian College. But and that's a component of what we do in our consulting too. If we don't give back, like if we're not finding that purpose and we're giving back, then we're stagnating in our careers and we're not moving forward, and we're just kind of, it's status quo for us. Whereas like that younger generation, that it is intimacy versus isolation. So they're looking for their tribe, right? They're looking for where do they belong. That sense of belonging is something you're seeing in all the Gallup polls. You're seeing it in the Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management. You're seeing scientifically they want to have a sense of belonging. And if they don't find that, then they feel isolated. And when they feel isolated, they're going to go find someplace else where they're not going to be isolated.
Yeah. And remote work has kind of had a real impact on culture too. Talk to us a little bit about that, because, one of the things I recognized early on was, when you're a leader, you can touch the hearts and minds of people when you're in the office. You can check in with them. You can stop by and say, "How's it going, Bob?" And give me those TPS reports. And
that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. And but it's hard to do that sort of human communication connectivity over Zoom. It's very, we've had psychologists on the show that have talked about how, with these 2D screens, our brains really have a hard time with two-dimensional. We're used to seeing faces in three-dimensional, and we're used to reading body language, facial features, facial communication off of 3D faces.
Right.
And this really actually messes with our brain, the 2D thing. And plus there's kind of a disconnect, You're over here, I'm over there. You feel, it's easy, I think, for employees to feel disconnected. And, it's harder to, if I'm dealing face to face with an employee, I can kind of see their interaction. I can see that they're like, "Hey, Chris, thanks for checking in." But when, they're over the thing, you don't know if they put up a fake picture of their avatar.
Yeah. I in fact, I remember I was working with a company, and they had a Christmas party, but it was, it's a COVID Christmas party. So it was all online, and it was facilitated by a third party. Online? Oh man, it was.
How's anyone going to get drunk and somebody's going to get caught making out in the copy room or something?
That didn't happen. No,
party.
Yeah. There were no
online.
No butt copies being done at this party, but
what party is this?
They tried to do like party games and stuff like that, and God bless the facilitator for trying real hard, but it just isn't the same. You're right. And I'm in a group of consultants. We've met and we still meet every like the first, second, and third Friday of the month. And we had met for 2 years, right? And then one of them said, "Hey, look, I have this place on the lake shore. Everybody come out to this party." Right. So we actually had an in-person party. Seeing everybody in 3D, the room was just lit up. Like we were just like, holy moly, this is what you look like. Oh, you're that short. Oh, you're that tall.
Holy shit, you're uglier in person. Jesus, what kind of filters are you using over there, Maud?
Yeah.
Somebody's name Maud from the 60s or something, 70s. I just date myself again. But you were saying that, I mean, they basically, it's a whole different culture when people interact human being-wise with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so being remote has been really hard on everybody. I think people are just sitting around doing nothing, and they've got the little TikTok shop thing that moves their mouse so that it looks like they're busy. I don't know those people, but
I was going to say there's a group of introverts that are probably going, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Chris.
I love my job.
Introverts unite in your own little corner.
I've worked from home since 2004. I mean, like when COVID hit, everyone's, we're going to start working at home. I'm like, hey, this is my space. I was here first.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is really cool. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, but, I've been here doing it. And yeah, it's nice. I mean, you can do stuff in your underwear. I'll see these news anchors that come on the show and they'll be doing the news, and you'll see, I don't know, an Instagram side shot of them, and they're I don't think they're in the underwear, but they're in their shorts. They've got like a suit top on for the spot, and you're just like, that's kind of funny to watch people. And
well, for what it's worth, Chris, I'm very comfortable right now.
Yeah, there's a couple websites. I'm not even going to ask.
Ew.
You have to go to the OnlyFans folks for that version. Yeah. As we go out, give people a final pitch out. How can they work with you? Is there a certain type of client or size of company you work for? Do you only work for Fortune 500 companies sort of thing? Certain amount of budget, et cetera, et cetera. How can people on board with you, reach out to you, and all that good stuff?
Can I do two things on that? The first one is, and this is very, very new, we actually wrote a book. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool. It's not just like a normal, ordinary book. We actually wrote a cartoon book.
Shermie the HR Hermit Crab.
Shermie the HR Hermit Crab. That's right. And so it's an illustrated book. So of course, every page I'm opening here doesn't have an illustration, but there we go. So there's kind of a sample of it. We've got 10 stories in here from our little hermit crab guy here. Uh-huh. And we talk about organizational culture. We talk about organizational change. We talk about leadership. All those things that you were talking about, we tried to stuff into 10 little gags here to make you chuckle, make you think. We have a little piece at the end there of each of the gags that kind of gives sometimes a science-based, oftentimes just a business-based synopsis of the lesson to be learned from there. But it's now available on Amazon, and so you go to harmoniousworkplaces.com and you'll find Shermie there. And if you go to shermiehrcrab.com, that's the direct link to his landing page. So
Hermit Crab, Shermie the HR Hermit Crab.
That's right.
Book. Meet Shermie. Get your book on Amazon. You can order it off of Amazon, wherever fine books are sold. Out November 13th, 2024, as we like to say.
That's right. Very, 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 very new. And we're very excited about it. But that's a good idea to get in touch with us. Also, we have our podcast, the Harmonious Workplaces podcast. And then we have a blog, so we publish. We try to publish at least once a week on the blog there. So we've got 50 or 60 articles up there, and you just tour around the site. Let us know what you think.
Shermie the HR Hermit Crab, the first one, and you made it fun. That you made a cartoon book for the Gen Zers. I love that.
hell, man! What are you talking about? I'm a Gen Xer, and I love cartoons.
Do you?
Oh man,
well, I guess
that's
kind of
like I said. That was Saturday morning, right?
We did
Saturday
grow up on
morning.
cartoons, yeah.
We just waited for Saturday morning.
Yeah, that was like the gold there, man. That and ABC Wide World of Sports. This is how it goes. So, anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show. Give us, we get your .coms? So give those out if one last time.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give out. Yep. You go to harmoniousworkplaces.com. You also find me on LinkedIn. I publish everything possible and that I can on LinkedIn. So that's LinkedIn/n/Richard J.A. Cruz. Those are the main places where you'll see me.
Thank you very much, sir. We certainly appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. This is a real treat.
Thank you. And thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity, and ChrisVossFacebook.com. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.